The battle in the Theed power generator complex is at its peak. Darth Maul, fueled by hatred and precision, has already struck down Qui-Gon Jinn. Obi-Wan Kenobi, burning with grief, fights fiercely, but in this alternate timeline, Maul anticipates his move during the final duel. Instead of being sliced in half, Maul sidesteps, counters, and fatally wounds Obi-Wan. The young Jedi's body falls into the reactor shaft, and the galaxy is forever changed. The Jedi Council chamber was silent as Anakin Skywalker stood at the center. The light of Coruscant's setting sun poured through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the room. Mace Windu's voice broke the stillness, announcing that Anakin would be granted the rank of Jedi Master. Gasps of surprise echoed among the members, but no one dared challenge the decision. Anakin's eyes shone with pride, and a spark of destiny seemed to burn brighter within him. Yoda studied him carefully, his wrinkled face unreadable. "Earned this, you have, Skywalker," he said slowly. "But much to learn, you still do." Anakin bowed deeply, but his mind was already racing with possibilities. He thought of Padme, of the child she carried, and of the power he could wield to protect them. In the days that followed, Anakin's influence in the Council grew rapidly. Missions that once would have been reserved for the most experienced masters were now entrusted to him. Jedi younglings looked up to him with awe, and soldiers of the Republic followed his orders without hesitation. Obi-Wan Kenobi, proud yet wary, cautioned his former apprentice to remember the Jedi Code. Palpatine watched from the shadows with a sly smile. The promotion had only brought Anakin closer to him. In private, the Chancellor whispered of abilities the Jedi feared, powers that could cheat death itself. Anakin listened, the thought of losing Padme haunting him with every word. When visions of her in pain returned, Anakin sought answers in forbidden texts stored deep within the Jedi archives. As a master, he had full access to knowledge previously hidden from him. Nights were spent studying ancient Force rituals, his mind walking a dangerous path between light and darkness. The Clone Wars raged on, and Anakin's victories multiplied. His strategies grew sharper, but so did his willingness to bend the rules. Jedi like Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon began to question whether this young master's boldness was strength or recklessness. All the while, Palpatine's voice lingered in his ear, urging him toward choices the Jedi would never approve. Anakin stood at a crossroads, the galaxy on the brink, and his new rank gave him the power to decide the fate of millions. But in his heart, one question remained. Was he still serving the Jedi, or himself? Anakin Skywalker stood on the balcony of the Jedi Temple, the night air cool against his face. Below him, Coruscant stretched endlessly, its lights flickering like a sea of stars. He could still hear the words from the Council chamber earlier that day, words that had changed everything. He was now a Jedi Master. The title felt heavy, yet thrilling. All his life he had pushed himself harder, fought with unmatched skill, and now the galaxy would see his greatness. But even as pride swelled in his chest, a quiet unease lingered in the Force, as though it were warning him. Obi-Wan Kenobi approached from behind, his steps soft but steady. "You've earned this, Anakin," he said with a small smile. "But remember, power is not just about what you can do, it's about knowing when not to act." Anakin nodded, though part of him wondered if Obi-Wan truly understood what it was like to carry such responsibility. The next day, the Chancellor requested a private meeting. In his office, Palpatine spoke with that same calm, persuasive tone Anakin had come to trust. "You are stronger than any Jedi before you," he said. "And now, as a master, you have the freedom to shape the future." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "There are powers the Council will never teach you. Powers that could save the ones you love." Those words clung to Anakin's mind like shadows. That night, he walked the great halls of the temple, his robes trailing behind him. The archivist granted him access to ancient holocrons once forbidden to him. He studied alone, the glow of blue holograms casting strange patterns on his face. The Clone Wars continued to rage, and Anakin's leadership on the battlefield became legendary. Troopers followed his orders without question. Planets were liberated, enemies defeated, but whispers began among the Jedi about the young master's increasing aggression. Each victory made Anakin more certain that he was meant for greater things. Yet with every step forward, he felt himself pulled closer to the Chancellor's promises, and further from the teachings of the Jedi. The city lights still shone brightly outside, but in Anakin's heart, the line between light and dark was beginning to blur. Anakin Skywalker walked through the grand halls of the Jedi Temple, his new title of Jedi Master still fresh on his mind. The respect in the eyes of the younglings and knights was unmistakable. They stepped aside when he passed, their gazes filled with admiration and curiosity. For Anakin, it felt like destiny finally acknowledging his worth. Yet deep within him, there was a restlessness he could not ignore. Visions still haunted him, flashes of Padme in pain, her breath shallow, her life slipping away. No matter how many battles he won or how much power he gained, the image refused to leave his thoughts. During a meeting of the Jedi Council, Mace Windu discussed critical matters of the Clone Wars. Anakin sat among the masters, his voice now carrying equal weight. But when the conversation turned to Chancellor Palpatine's growing influence, tensions rose. Mace's suspicion was clear, and Anakin felt a quiet anger stir within him. Later, in the Chancellor's private chambers, Palpatine welcomed Anakin warmly. "My boy," he began with a calm smile. "You are exactly what the galaxy needs. A Jedi unafraid to act, to do what must be done." His voice lowered. "There are abilities, powerful abilities, that the Jedi fear, but they could save the one you love most." Anakin's heart pounded. As a master, he had access to restricted Jedi knowledge, but Palpatine's promise hinted at something far beyond the archives. That night, Anakin returned to the temple and delved into texts of ancient Force traditions, their words echoing in the silent chambers. Days turned into weeks, and his battlefield victories became even more decisive. Generals praised his brilliance, soldiers trusted him without question. But among the Jedi, quiet doubts began to grow. Some masters saw his decisiveness as dangerous, his connection to the Chancellor troubling. Obi-Wan tried to reach him. "Anakin, we are keepers of the peace, not soldiers of ambition," he said. But Anakin only smiled faintly, thinking of the power within his reach. The night sky over Coruscant glittered with endless lights, yet Anakin felt the shadows closing in. The path ahead was clear to him, but the Jedi would not understand. Not yet. Anakin Skywalker stood in the war room of the Jedi Temple, the holograms of battlefields glowing in shades of blue and red around him. As a Jedi Master, his voice carried authority over strategies that would decide the fate of entire worlds. Generals listened, other masters deferred to his judgment, and the galaxy seemed to move at the sound of his command. Yet, despite the victories, the visions of Padme's suffering returned each night. He would wake in a cold sweat, staring at the city lights of Coruscant, wondering how much time he had left to save her. The power he had gained still felt incomplete, like a blade missing its other edge. During a council meeting, Yoda's small eyes studied him with quiet concern. "Careful, you must be, Master Skywalker. Attachment leads to fear, fear leads to anger." Anakin forced a smile, but the words dug deep. He knew fear. He felt it every time he imagined Padme slipping away. That evening, Palpatine summoned him to the Chancellor's office. The city stretched endlessly beyond the tall windows, the hum of speeders filling the night air. Palpatine's voice was calm, almost fatherly. "Anakin, you are the most powerful Jedi alive. But there are secrets, lost to the Order, that could give you the ability to prevent death itself." The words struck like lightning. Ancient whispers of forbidden Force powers stirred in Anakin's mind, powers that could change destiny. As a master, his clearance in the Jedi archives was unmatched. That night, he descended into the deepest vaults, where the air was still and cold. Holographic records flickered to life around him, showing rituals from eras the Council barely acknowledged. His eyes narrowed as he absorbed every detail. In the days that followed, his missions became swifter, more decisive. Worlds were saved, battles ended before they began. But some among the Jedi began to murmur that Skywalker's methods were too direct, too merciless for their way. Obi-Wan approached him privately. "Anakin, the Council trusts you, but I fear you are walking a path they do not see." Anakin looked away, the flicker of the city lights reflecting in his eyes. The path was clear to him, and if the Jedi could not walk it with him, he would walk it alone. Anakin Skywalker strode through the corridors of the Senate building, his dark robes flowing behind him. His new position as Jedi Master gave him not only the respect of the Order, but also the direct ear of the most powerful leaders in the Republic. Senators greeted him with nods of admiration, some even with relief, knowing his victories had turned the tide in many battles. Yet the weight on his heart had not lessened. Padme's soft smile haunted his thoughts, shadowed by the terrifying visions of her gasping for breath. Each image burned deeper, reminding him that all his power might still not be enough. One evening, as the crimson sun dipped low over Coruscant's skyline, Anakin stood in Chancellor Palpatine's private chambers. The Chancellor's voice was smooth and deliberate. "Anakin, you've seen how the Jedi hold back. But as a master, you need not be chained by their limits. There are ways, ancient ways, to bend the Force to your will." Anakin's eyes narrowed, the promise of such power stirring in him like a rising storm. Palpatine leaned closer. "I can guide you, but you must be willing to do what the others will not." That night, Anakin returned to the Jedi Temple, his footsteps echoing in the vast, dimly lit halls. In the deep archives, he unlocked vaults once forbidden to him. Holocrons shimmered to life, whispering knowledge from long-dead Force adepts. Their words spoke of creation and destruction, of life held in the palm of one's hand. The following weeks saw Anakin's victories grow swifter and more decisive. Whole campaigns ended in days instead of months. Clone troopers began to speak of him not only as a hero, but as a force of nature. The Jedi Council, however, grew uneasy. Mace Windu in particular watched him closely, his mistrust deepening. Obi-Wan tried to counsel him. "Anakin, your strength is unmatched, but don't lose yourself to it." Anakin met his gaze, but said nothing. In his mind, there was no conflict, only the certainty that he was moving toward a destiny no one else could understand. The city lights burned bright across the night, but to Anakin, they only marked the hours slipping away. Time was running out, and he would not let Padme be lost. Not when he now had the power to change fate itself. Anakin Skywalker stood on the high balcony of the Jedi Temple, the cool night air brushing against his face. Below him, Coruscant pulsed with endless light and motion, yet his mind was far from the city. The rank of Jedi Master had given him more than authority. It had given him access to knowledge that could shape the galaxy. But the visions of Padme's suffering still gripped him with unrelenting force. No matter how many victories he achieved, the image of her fading away returned, pulling at his every thought. The more he saw it, the more certain he became that the Jedi way would not save her. Chancellor Palpatine's influence grew stronger with each passing day. In the privacy of his office, he spoke softly but with purpose. "Anakin, the Jedi cannot give you the answers you seek. They are blinded by their own traditions. But together, we can unlock the true power of the Force, power to stop death itself." The words were dangerous, yet they felt like truth. That night, Anakin descended into the hidden depths of the Jedi archives. The halls were silent except for the faint hum of ancient technology. He activated holocrons filled with teachings the Council had long forbidden. Blue light illuminated his face as voices from centuries past spoke of the Force's most secret abilities. On the battlefield, his leadership reached new heights. Entire separatist strongholds fell under his swift and calculated strikes. Clone commanders spoke of his unmatched precision, and even veteran Jedi admired his results. Still, whispers spread among the masters that Skywalker was becoming too bold, too willing to take risks others would not. Obi-Wan Kenobi confronted him one evening in the temple's gardens. "Anakin, I know you believe you are doing what's right. But there's a line, and once crossed, it's impossible to return." Anakin looked at his old friend, his jaw tight. "Sometimes, Obi-Wan, doing what's right means ignoring that line." The wind carried the hum of speeders across the city, but in Anakin's heart there was only the heavy beat of determination. The Jedi might not understand, but he would not let Padme be lost. He had the knowledge now. All he needed was the will to use it. Anakin Skywalker moved through the Jedi Temple with the quiet confidence of one who had finally reached his rightful place. The title of Jedi Master had changed how others looked at him. Knights gave him respectful nods, younglings whispered his name, and even the older masters regarded him with a mixture of respect and caution. Yet despite the honor, his mind was far from at peace. Each night, the same vision gripped him. Padme, pale and weak, her life slipping away. It was not just a dream. Anakin knew the Force was showing him the future, and every day that passed brought it closer. One evening, in the Chancellor's office, Palpatine spoke with a quiet intensity. "You are the most gifted Jedi in history, Anakin. But the Council will never show you the knowledge that could save her. They fear your power. I can give you that knowledge, if you trust me." The offer lingered in Anakin's thoughts like a shadow. As a master, he had already explored archives others could not touch, but Palpatine hinted at abilities that went beyond even the deepest Jedi records. That night, long after the temple had grown silent, Anakin studied holocrons that glowed faintly in the darkness. They spoke of manipulating life itself, of bending the Force to defy death. In the days that followed, his actions on the battlefield became even more decisive. Separatist leaders fell swiftly, fleets scattered before his strategies, and worlds celebrated his victories. But within the Council, quiet murmurs of unease spread. Some feared that Skywalker's growing independence would lead him down a dangerous path. Obi-Wan Kenobi found him alone in one of the temple's meditation rooms. "Anakin, your power is undeniable," Obi-Wan said carefully. "But don't let your fear of loss decide your fate." Anakin's gaze was fixed on the city skyline beyond the window. "If I have the ability to save the people I love and I do nothing, then I have already failed." The glow of Coruscant's endless lights filled the room, but to Anakin, the future felt darker than ever. His path was set, and he could no longer turn away from it. Anakin Skywalker stood in the council chamber, the sunlight from Coruscant's sky casting golden lines across the polished floor. He had spoken with authority, and the other masters had listened. The weight of his rank as Jedi Master gave him a voice equal to the greatest among them. But with that power came a constant awareness of time slipping away. Padme's face, pale and fading, lingered in his mind no matter how many duties demanded his focus. After the meeting, he walked alone through the temple's quiet corridors. The sound of his boots echoed, each step carrying the weight of the choice he knew was coming. He had been given access to knowledge most Jedi would never see, but even that did not hold the answers he sought. That evening, Palpatine summoned him. The Chancellor's voice was calm, his words deliberate. "Anakin, the Jedi will not save her. They hide the truth from you. But I know a way to stop death." Anakin listened, every muscle tense. "If such a thing exists, I need to know." Palpatine leaned forward. "It does exist, but you must be willing to embrace a power greater than the Jedi dare to touch." Those words stayed with him long after he returned to the temple. In the stillness of the night, he descended into the restricted archives. Holocrons glimmered to life in his hands, projecting the voices of ancient Force wielders. Their teachings spoke of creation, destruction, and the delicate thread between life and death. The next weeks saw his reputation grow even further. On the front lines, his leadership ended campaigns in days, his presence enough to shift entire battles. Troopers spoke his name with admiration, while whispers among the council grew more cautious. Obi-Wan Kenobi approached him after a mission. "Anakin, you are walking a fine line. The council trusts you, but you're changing." Anakin's eyes met his, steady and unflinching. "Maybe the Jedi need to change too." Outside, the city's lights burned against the darkness, but to Anakin, they felt like the last stars before night fully claimed the sky. He had the power to act, and he would, no matter the cost. Anakin Skywalker stood on the landing platform of the Jedi Temple as the sun dipped behind Coruscant's endless skyline. The roar of passing speeders faded into the distance, leaving only the whisper of the wind in his ears. His new title as Jedi Master carried an unshakable presence, and with it came doors that had once been firmly closed to him. But none of it eased the tension that had rooted itself deep in his chest. Each night, the same vision returned. Padme, lying weak and breathless, her life slipping away no matter how desperately he reached for her. The fear gnawed at him, and with each passing day, it became harder to hide the urgency from those around him. In the Chancellor's office, Palpatine's voice carried the same calm power that always drew Anakin in. "You have achieved what many thought impossible," he said, his tone warm. "But the Jedi will not give you the means to save her. They are bound by old codes, afraid of true power." Anakin's fists clenched. "Then tell me what I must do." Palpatine leaned closer, his gaze sharp. "I can teach you, but you must be willing to embrace a strength that defies the limits the Jedi have placed on you." The words lingered in Anakin's mind as he returned to the temple. That night, under the quiet hum of the archives, he entered the deepest vaults. Holocrons glowed softly in the shadows, projecting knowledge from voices centuries old. They spoke of bending life and death, of shaping the Force beyond the boundaries the Council had set. On the battlefield, his growing mastery became undeniable. Separatist fleets fell apart under his command, and clone commanders followed his orders without hesitation. Yet within the Council, doubts sharpened. Some masters saw not just skill, but a dangerous hunger in him. Obi-Wan Kenobi found him in the war room after a late strategy meeting. "Anakin, you have the Council's trust now. Don't lose it chasing something that may destroy you." Anakin turned away from the holographic maps, his voice low. "I won't lose her, Obi-Wan. No matter what it takes." The city lights flickered beyond the windows, but in Anakin's mind, the darkness was already closing in. Anakin Skywalker stood in the quiet meditation chamber of the Jedi Temple, the hum of the city faint in the distance. The title of Jedi Master had brought him influence, respect, and unrestricted access to the deepest secrets of the Order. Yet, with every passing day, his thoughts drifted back to the same haunting vision. Padme, fragile and fading, her breath shallow as if the galaxy itself was slipping away from her. No victory on the battlefield could silence that image. It lingered even in the heat of war, pressing on him with a weight he could not ignore. One afternoon, Chancellor Palpatine invited him to his office. The Chancellor's voice was smooth, almost soothing. "Anakin, you now stand above every Jedi of your generation. But the Council will never teach you the power to save her. They cling to their rules, afraid of what lies beyond." Anakin's jaw tightened. "If there's a way, I will find it." Palpatine's eyes gleamed. "There is a way, but you must be willing to walk a path the Jedi fear." Later that night, Anakin entered the most restricted wing of the Jedi archives. The air was cool and still, the only sound the faint hum of ancient holocrons as they flickered to life. Holographic figures spoke in voices from centuries past, revealing techniques that could alter the very fabric of life. His gaze sharpened as each secret unfolded before him. On the front lines, his power was unmatched. Entire campaigns ended in days under his command, and Republic worlds celebrated his name. But within the Jedi Council, concern deepened. Masters began to question whether the young master's ambitions were leading him somewhere the Order could not follow. Obi-Wan Kenobi confronted him after a long mission. "Anakin, I've fought beside you for years. I know your heart. But this is different. You're changing." Anakin's eyes met his old friends. "I'm becoming what I was meant to be. And if the Jedi can't see that, then they've already failed." Beyond the temple's windows, Coruscant's lights shimmered against the darkness. To Anakin, they were not lights at all, but the final stars before the night took everything away.